If Counter-Strike 2 isn't running well for you, then the most likely possibility is that your PC is just a bit old and/or rubbish. I would suggest setting the graphics options to low, setting FSR to performance mode, to disable VSync, and to see if any of that fixes your frame rate issues. If so, then great. But if not, and I presume it's not going to work since you're watching this video, then carry on. It really helps to know what your computer's components are, so find them out and post them in this video's comments section, and hopefully somebody will get back to you with some helpful advice, telling you whether your situation is hopeless or not. I would suggest formatting your comment like this, so people know what you're gaming on. If you don't know what your components are, you can find them out by clicking on the Start button down here and by typing dxdiag. Click on this, click yes if anything comes up, and once it's loaded, type in the comment section what it says in the processor line, the memory line, and then click on the display tab here and type whatever is on this line here. And even if it doesn't say it here or in the render tab, if you have a graphics card and you know what it is, then say that as well. It helps a lot. It's probably the most useful thing to know about your computer. Also say whether it's a laptop or not, and if you know it, what the model of your PC is. It might also help to say where you're from, because upgrade advice can vary greatly in different regions depending on component pricing and stuff. End with a description of what your issue is. This will make it easier for people to reply to you with suggestions and whether or not you'll be able to upgrade your current system. But say you want to try and figure out and fix the problem for yourself. I respect that, and the rest of this video should help cover the basics of diagnosing frame rate problems. So let's start with the obvious things, if you're on a desktop PC. Check where your monitor is plugged into your PC. If you have a slot down here that you can plug your monitor in, then you'll want to use it because this connects to your graphics card. If you have one of these down here, yet your monitor is for some reason plugged in up here instead, then great news! You've made a rookie mistake and your PC may run a hell of a lot faster once you plug it into your graphics card instead of your motherboard. Second, it's really worth knowing what the graphics card is that's in your PC. If you now have your PC plugged into your graphics card and your monitor is working, then it's likely that your PC will have installed some drivers for it already. But it pays to double check. Right click on your desktop, display settings, advanced display, and it should show you the graphics card that's in your PC. Google which company it is, either Intel, AMD or Nvidia, along with graphics drivers, and it tends to be quite easy to find and to download and to install the correct ones for your system. But what if you're not using a desktop PC? What if you're using a laptop? Well, first of all, make sure it's plugged into the mains. It may not matter, but it might. Plus, you don't want it running out of battery as you're defusing on the 24th round. I hate diagnosing laptop problems because they're sneaky. They might have some secret battery saving, power restricting feature on, but only when on battery mode, artificially preventing you from getting your laptop's full power potential. And especially with more powerful gaming laptops, they may require more power than a battery can provide to get the components up to full speed. However, for this video, I am deliberately using a laptop that I know will struggle with CS2, and it didn't make it easy to discover which graphics card it has. Because gaming laptops tend to have two graphics cards. There's a weaker one attached to the processor, which like every laptop has, but gaming laptops also have a second, more powerful, dedicated graphics card. And that's the one you want it using in games. Don't expect laptops to tell you what's inside them. Honestly, the best way to find out what's in your PC is to find the invoice when you first bought it. Failing that, Google your PC's model number and any components that you know are in it, and hopefully you can figure something out. So since my laptop's graphics card is an Nvidia MX550, I went to Nvidia's site, downloaded it, installed it, next, done. If all this is installed and your game is still running slowly, then it's on to the next part of this video. Before anything else, you need to be able to see your frame rate. You can use CS2's built-in frame rate tool by enabling the console in the game settings like so, by opening it up using this button, and by typing show FPS 1. Load up a map in offline mode without bots. You just need an environment for now that you can experiment with things without the fear of being shot in the face. Now we need to figure out whether it's your processor or your graphics card that is limiting your frame rate. That way you know which one needs upgrading should you want better performance. And I've devised a very simple way of testing this. Go to the graphics options, set it to low, since I guess you're already struggling with frame rates, but make sure that FSR is disabled. Check to see what your frame rate is. Now turn FSR to performance mode and check the frame rate again. Your frame rate should have got better, and if so, then you were likely graphics card limited before. You would do well to stick to lower settings and resolutions for the best performance, and possibly to consider a graphics card upgrade if your PC supports it. However, if your frame rates remained the same both times you tested it, then I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The bad news is, you'll probably have to upgrade your processor if you want better performance in this game. But the good news is, since it doesn't seem to be slowing your PC down anymore, then you may as well stick to higher graphics settings and resolutions, and appreciate a better looking game in the meantime. Having to upgrade your components isn't ideal, because that costs money, and it isn't always possible to do, especially for laptop users. So before we do anything stupid and expensive, let's make sure nothing else is artificially limiting our frame rate in this game, because believe it or not, many things can, especially on laptops. So let's try and remove any FPS locks. First of all, make sure you're getting the most out of your screen. Go to the Video tab in CS2's options, and if this is set to full screen, then you'll get a refresh rate option. Tick the highest and see if that makes your game run or feel smoother. If you know you're using a high refresh rate monitor with 144 or 240 Hz, then make sure those options exist here, else you may have your screen set up incorrectly in some way. You'll see here that I have an option for 143, despite my screen being 144 Hz. But it's close enough. But be wary of really weird frame rates like 98, 72 or 69, which could suggest that something funky is going on elsewhere, which I won't be covering in this video because it would take too long. But as an example, just the other day my monitor threw a hissy fit and refused to work beyond 72 Hz. And after lots of crazy experimental fixes which failed, I eventually solved it by turning my PC off and on again. So, you've got your monitor's refresh rate set up correctly, but now notice your frame rate seems to be stuck at that value. And you might have VSync on. Go to the graphics menu and ensure that it is off. This is another rabbit hole I don't want to go down for this video, but disabling VSync often leads to a more responsive feeling game, but may come with screen tearing, which can look something like this, although I think it's worth it for a more responsive mouse experience. It's also worth typing in the console FPS_max 0. If your PC still seems fixed to a value like 60 FPS, then VSync might be forced on somewhere else on your PC, like in the Nvidia control panel. Other technologies like gsync can also limit your frame rate, but in a nice way. So it's not always a problem if your frame rate isn't super high, so long as your resulting game experience feels smooth and responsive. If you're on a laptop, then good luck, because there are all sorts of things that might be limiting your frame rate to help improve your battery life. But like I said at the beginning, try plugging it into the mains and see if that helps first. From my experience, laptops are really horrible for this, where you think you've turned off the power saving mode, but then there are actually another 5 hidden options in Windows that you also need to disable before your laptop will run at full performance. For my laptop, it wasn't until I reinstalled the Dell bloatware that came with it and changed this option that I finally got the full performance out of my laptop again. And even then, sometimes it just doesn't even. Desktop PCs are so much easier. At this point, we've moved on to acceptance. Your PC is terrible and won't ever run CS2 any faster, but there may still be ways that we can improve the experience. To help with low frame rates, your monitor might have a technology known as Freesync or gsync, which can help make it feel smoother. You'll need to know what your monitor is to know if it supports these things, and if so, which ones. If it uses gsync and your PC has an Nvidia graphics card, then you can use that. Google how to enable gsync. Otherwise, your monitor might have FreeSync, in which case I suggest Googling how to enable FreeSync. You'll figure it out. CS2 also features Nvidia Reflex in the options menu, although this will only be available to turn on if you have a compatible card. And this is a smarter technology than it first seems. It doesn't increase your frame rate, but speeds up the delivery of the latest frame in a way that I won't go into depth about here, but it's definitely worth enabling if you have the option to do so. For the rest of you, there's this phenomenon I've encountered where limiting your PC's speed can sometimes make it feel better to play. So if your game is fluctuating somewhere between 40 and 60 FPS, for example, then typing FPS max 40 into the console will lock it at 40. Sometimes being locked to a more consistent but lower frame rate can make it feel better to control than a higher but more fluctuating frame rate. Hopefully you're getting more than 60 FPS, in which case use FPS max 60, which I found can make an otherwise standard monitor feel surprisingly responsive to use. And especially on laptops, like the one I'm using, limiting the frame rate is sensible for a wide number of reasons, helping it to consume less power, to throttle less, and to be cooler to the touch. I personally think that uncapped frame rates is a gross waste of resources at the best of times, but there are other good reasons for why less is sometimes more. And last, we get on to upgrading your PC. Some systems will allow you to upgrade the problem components, but unfortunately for many of you, getting a new computer of some kind might be the best way to improve your experience. This is way too big a topic to cover in this video, and the advice will change as the years go on. CS2, compared with some games, has relatively modest requirements, and most modern systems with a graphics card of some sort should be able to run it fairly successfully. But before you make a costly mistake, as I suggested at the start of my video, you should post your PC specs in the comments section, and hopefully somebody will get back to you with some advice to start you on your journey and to help you avoid the common pitfalls should you go down the upgrade or new PC path.